The goal for us was to understand the human experience, so I'd have to say not just his position, but the fact that it was just coming out of his head and he wasn't telling us at all his motive or his personal story. Politicians are really trained, you know, to give you the right spiel. The Palestinian politicians, you know, same story. They come in with a lot of makeup and a lot of staff and people sort of, yes men, sort of backing them up, and it's, you just feel like you want to meet the person and you're not. You're meeting like the official. And, but still, relationships are formed and groups do meet and hear each other. And sometimes that human connection does really happen.
I hear you. Now, you've also met with the Sheikh Yassin.
Sheikh Yassin,
who is
deceased.
Labeled by the American Security Department as a terrorist, and,
well,
and certainly by the Israelis.
He's a deceased terrorist now.
Yes.
He was assassinated, I think is the right word. We
Yes,
met
he
with
was.
him. We met with him in Gaza on a delegation that I was actually on. That was pretty intense. It was very intense. It was an all-Jewish delegation, and we went into his home in Gaza City and listened to him for quite a while. It was quite intense. I don't know if you're aware, he's paraplegic. He couldn't move his arms or his legs, and he speaks to his interpreter who translated to us. And he was known as the spiritual advisor, if you will, or the spiritual founder of the Hamas movement.
Yes.
So this is a person who's taken some very anti-reconciliation positions, but we still went in to speak with him and to try to understand how he understands his responsibility to take care of his people and to shepherd his people and to try to honor him as a leader in his own lights, in his own way.
When you speak to a person like Sheikh Yassin, who Israel and the United States regard as you say, now a deceased terrorist, and of course the Palestinians would regard as a hero and a freedom fighter and all that.
Some.
Yes, okay. Do you feel that you are giving legitimacy to an individual when it's not warranted?
We feel that we are giving ear to the relevant positions. And when we show up and we say, we want to understand your position in this conflict and how you came to it. And I do think that it really helps us if we understand the voice, the position, the life experience of everyone in the region. And I think it is legitimate to listen to voices of Hamas, not necessarily to support or agree, but to listen because they are a voice to the conflict.
What do you say when Sheikh Yassin says our goal is to destroy the state of Israel, or to, when he considers the entire region, including, in the Green Line, Tel Aviv, Palestinian land, and that, these kinds of extreme proclamations. What do you do when that happens?
We listen and try to understand how he has come to this position where the safety of his people might not leave room for the safety and legitimate connection of our people, of any other people, to that land. And we try to understand how he came to that.
So you just listen to it?
We're just
You're not
listening.
saying you agree?
Exactly.
No hurt listening, and you don't feel that it, you're not worried that it legitimizes. I mean, let me ask you, do you televise these conversations, or is it more or less what you're trying to generate in the room at the time with the individuals that you're listening to?
That's a good question, because really my individual goal is to understand that person that's in the room with me, but if there's 12 of us at a time having this conversation, we can't really be effective in a larger scale. We took on two of the delegations, we actually took camera crews with us and did various kinds of photography that were broadcast later for various types of audiences. So in the privacy of that conversation, we do want to create opportunities for more and more people to come to this idea that, it would be great if we could hear each other a little better on all sides.
Okay. Would you listen to Adolf Hitler in 1943?
I think I'd have to say that. I think I'd have to say that from the point of view of compassionate listening, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to speak with Osama bin Laden if you could?
Me personally, no, not me personally, but again, from the point of view of compassionate listening.
I'd love to.
I don't do well in caves. I just don't have a call to it. I do feel called to the Israel-Palestine issue. I feel that, I was raised on the dream, and I want to be proud of the Jewish state. I want it to be a flourishing homeland, and I really wonder if it can be a safe and healthy place for more than one peoplehood to have an authentic, safe place to flourish.
Okay, now, you've led delegations, you've trained people in the power of listening. Obviously, you believe in this, and what have you observed? What happens when you listen to someone?
There's a beautiful moment that happens. So, for an example, we were listening to a Palestinian woman one time talking about how she was kicked out of her village, basically,
okay.
and they resettled, and she was, they took us around to their homestead and so forth, and she was explaining to us about the fact of her expulsion. She was quite young when that happened.
Okay.
And at a certain point, she realized that she was sitting in a room with a bunch of Jewish people that had come from North America to understand her experience as a little girl and that trauma of her eviction. And she started to kind of choke up as she was talking to us, and then she just sighed, and she said, it just felt terrible to be treated like that. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to agree with her, or be a Zionist, or be against Zionism, but just to say this little girl kicked out of her home. Later that day, on the delegation, we talked to an Israeli woman who was a peace activist in Israel, and she talked about the experience of being kicked out of her home in Hungary. Mm. And we in the group, we said, wow, there's refugees on both sides here, and if they could hear from each other, wouldn't that be amazing for them to say, I'm sorry that happened to you?
Okay. So you feel that this is a positive thing when there's more communication, less defenses,
yeah,
less touting the mantra, the manifestos and the positions, and getting together as people to listen to the human experience.
That's a very good summary. Yes.
That's very powerful. We were talking about the power of listening, and it's an art, and it's something that people that are good at this get paid a lot of money to listen to people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because when you are listened to, you feel very good inside. Now, it's kind of a kindness. You were talking about listening in terms of the word chesed, kindness, being really kind to someone. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What is your feeling about that?
I'll tell you, when we go on the delegations and we want to talk to someone, we always pick up the phone and say, we're not trying to be combative, we're a listening group. And people sometimes turn us down. I should tell you some of the reasons why we've been turned down for the listening groups. But they always appreciate me saying to them, we don't mean to be combative, we want to understand your story. Who wouldn't want to come and tell it? Wouldn't you want to go and tell your story to anyone who showed up with a good intent and a good heart to listen to you? Why wouldn't you go and tell your story? Virtually everyone that we've approached with this way, on both sides, on all positions in the conflict, both sides have many positions, I'm sure you're aware.
Yes, sure.
And each of them has received our call outside of scheduling conflicts. And been very happy to meet with us, with a couple exceptions. Would you like to hear the exceptions?
Oh, yeah, sure. Lead the way.
There was an Israeli general who had criticized the way the boundaries were drawn in the West Bank. He said they were very hard to defend, and from a military point of view, he thought they needed to be reconsidered, and that a more contiguous Palestine needed to be extant if the whole two-state idea is going to be feasible, really. And we called him. He was quoted around the world. An Israeli general criticizing Israeli Defense Force policy in the West Bank was quoted around the world. And we called him, as did many Japanese and other people, and said, would you talk to us? And he said that he wouldn't. He said it was an inside issue, and that he needed his audience was Israeli culture. He wasn't about shaming them or making them seem wrong in the eyes of the world, but he said he had something that he needed to say to Israelis, and that he wanted to do that in privacy.
Now, I just want to turn our attention a moment to this video, this film that you've made. You've had a part in making it.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this, please.
Well, the idea of going on our dialogues, but being able to bring more people into the process when we get home, brought us to bring film crews on 2 of the delegations. There's a prior film to this called Children of Abraham, and that is the Jewish delegation that I first went on. Sheikh Yassin is in there. It just shows the process of a number of North American Jews from different positions being exposed to these various thinkers and experiences as we went through it and reflecting on it. So that's a good film.